everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome to our teen painting class with the fabulous Katie from Glaze Paint. We are going to be creating a beautiful beach scene, and I will turn it over very soon. But remember, we have summer reading still going on at Manitowoc Public Library. It is not too late to join our reading program. It is all online this year, so you can come on down to the library to sign up, or you can just download the Beanstack app and get some awesome prizes, raffle tickets to earn prizes, and free books, always the best. Our next teen program coming up after this is going to be some D&D online. So if you're interested in that, you can call the library or comment on our advertising to learn how you can get involved. You can sign up coming up online on our Facebook page in the events section. All right, take it away, Katie.
Awesome. Well, hi. As she had mentioned, I'm Katie from Glaze Paint. We are located at 909 Washington Street, so right on downtown. Feel free to stop in. Right now we're having limited hours that we're starting to do in-studio painting again, but you can also pick up things such as this and other different projects as well that you can take at home to paint just like you are today. So if you're interested in that, stop on down or send us a message. So what we're going to be painting today is this beach canvas here. So everybody should have picked up a packet with one canvas. You should have 6 colors of paint in these little cups, and they should be just fine and not dried out until you take the lid off. So if you don't use them all, you can always put the lid back on and use them for a different project too. And then everybody should also have some brushes as well. So I'm going to demonstrate on a larger canvas today, but again, you have this size here. I do recommend that you put down a tablecloth or newspaper just so it doesn't get on your table or anything. And then you'll also need some paper towel and a little cup of water just for rinsing out brushes and drying them. And I do recommend to wear an apron or paint clothes just in case if it does get on your clothes, it might stain. It will wash out of your skin, but possibly not your clothes. So just keep that in mind, okay? Everybody should also have these instructions, and I'm going to follow these pretty much right on how they are. So if you have any questions, you can always refer to these, or you can post some comments too. But always remember, you can always use whatever brushes you're most comfortable with, and if you don't like exactly what I'm doing, it's your painting, so you can do whatever you want to do. Also, I have a hairdryer set up for drying my canvas during different steps. You can use a hairdryer, but otherwise you can let it air dry too if you don't want to or don't have one. So it's okay if you don't, but I will be using one today. So first we're going to use the lighter blue. So you should have 2 blues. We're using the lighter tealish blue here. And again, whichever brush you're most comfortable with. And you want to put some paint on your brush. And first we're going to do just a wavy line. This is where our water meets the sand. So everybody's is going to be a little different, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Whatever you want to do. So I have my wavy line, and then all of the space above this line we're going to do in that blue. So you can cover the entire top part here. So leave this part white here, and just cover the entire top part. And you can do the edges as well if you want to. So I like to do the edges, especially if I'm hanging it on my wall. It makes it look nice and finished. So we're just going to paint my edges, and you can paint this entire top part here. And you should have plenty of paint to cover your canvas, so there should be no issue with running out. Usually I like to have my brush strokes going all in one direction here. And you can always do multiple coats of paint if you want to. Usually it covers pretty good in one. But if you wanted to, you always can do a couple. Remember to take your time. You can always, if I'm moving a little too fast or anything, you can always check out that handout with the steps on it too, or ask us questions. Okay, so I just have to do this side here. Okay. So once you have the entire top part done, next, before we dry it, we're going to take this darker blue, so the darker of the two blues that you have. And you don't want to rinse out this brush or anything because it's going to help blend the darker blue. If you notice in this one, there's a little bit of dark blue just blended into that teal. And that's going to help, so you just don't rinse out this brush. You just need a real little bit of that dark blue paint. And as this is still wet, we're just going to put a little bit of that dark blue in there. Just go all the same direction. And see how it's blending together here. That's because it's still wet. And you don't need a whole lot of this dark blue, just a little bit, just to add some highlights of the dark. So the teal is still going to be the main color, but it just kind of adds some dimension to it. There we go. So I'm going to rinse out this brush here because I like this brush, so I'm going to use the same one for the tan. But if you want to use a different brush, go ahead and grab a different one. Completely up to you because it's your painting. So I have my nice clean brush again. This time I'm going to grab the tan paint. And now we're going to do the rest of the canvas. So whatever we have that's still the plain canvas, we're going to do in tan. This is going to be the sand. So just cover the rest of it here. Now be a little careful when you're painting up against the water here. We don't want any blue mixing in. And remember, you can do the bottom too. Don't forget to paint the bottom if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. So again, be really careful because this is still going to be wet. Unless you dry it with your hairdryer in between, you can always dry it and then do the sand. Otherwise, just be a little gentle just along that edge there. And I'm going to do the edges here. And I'm going to wait to do the bottom until I'm done and this is a little bit more dry. But if you do that, don't forget to go back if you want to do the bottom. There we go. And remember, it doesn't have to be a perfectly curvy line here. All water is a little different and your painting is going to be a little different too. So it doesn't have to be exactly like this is. There we go. So I have my tan. So now I'm going to dry this with a hairdryer just to speed up dry time a little bit. But if you don't want to, you can let it air dry too. Okay, so now my painting's pretty dry. And this kind of paint, it's acrylic paint, so it should dry pretty quickly anyways. But again, you can speed up that drying like that as well. So next we're going to take one of our brushes here. I didn't use the same brush because it doesn't have to be super big, just a little bit because we're going to do the waves next that are up in the water. So we're going to take the white paint here. And you don't need a lot of paint on your brush, so I like to kind of dip it in the paint and wipe it on the edge a little bit because you don't need a lot of paint. And instead of brushing, we're going to tap. And that's going to get these wave textures here. So you can add waves wherever you want and as many as you want. So if you only want a couple or if you want a lot, completely up to you. So again, we're not brushing, we're tapping up and down to get that texture. And we don't need a lot of paint on our brush, just a real little bit. You can always add more, however you want. Waves are all different. So if yours are a little different than everybody else's, that's okay. We can have a lot of waves. Put some here. Put some right there. Wherever you feel needs a little bit of waves here. And all waves are a little differently shaped too. So some can be bigger or smaller. And even if a little part of your painting is still a little wet, that's okay because some waves have that bluish tint to them anyways. So again, we're just doing up and down. Instead of brushing, we're tapping. I think it's going to be a wavy day on my canvas here. Must be a little windy. There we go. I think I'm going to add just a couple more over here. I'm putting a couple where the sand meets the water here. So that's usually where most of the waves are here. I have them going off the canvas a little bit. Just a couple more up here. But if you don't want that many, you don't have to either. You just want a couple, that's okay. A little one there. Okay, so I think that's as many as I want there. So I'm going to rinse out that brush. And again, if you're following along, we have it in this not notebook, but handout here. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take the brown, so not the tan, but the darker brown here. We're going to make some of those dots in the sand, and that's going to be our grains of sand. So instead of using the front end of a brush, we're going to turn the brush around and use the back end. So not the brush part, but the tip of the brush here. We're going to dip it in our paint and just make little dots for our grains of sand. And again, you can do as many of these as you want because all sand is a little different as well. These are just our little grains of sand here. You can always put some on the edges, if you painted your edges. Same with the waves. You can make the waves go right along the edge there. And remember, there's no need to rush or anything. Just take your time and have your painting look exactly how you want it to look. This is a perfect painting for this week. It's so warm. Makes you want to be at the beach. So Some of these dots can be closer together. It's all random. It doesn't have to be in any particular pattern or anything. Okay, I think I like how that looks there. So then I'm just going to use my paper towel to dry off the back of my brush, just so it doesn't get on my clothes. Yes?
Is there any way, if you happen to mess up at any point, is there a way to kind of undo a mistake?
Good question. So if you do make a mistake or anything, this acrylic paint is really nice because you can just dry it or let it dry and you can paint right over it. So any of the colors you can paint right on over the top, and it's pretty much just like an eraser. So you could always redo anything you want to do. So that's a very good question. Okay, so the next step, we're going to use our orange. We're going to make this little starfish here. Now, if you want to, you could even make a couple if you want, but I'm just going to put one on mine. But if you want a few, feel free to have a few. So also, if you want to, I'm going to do this with paint right away, but you can draw it on with a pencil first. So then just make sure that it's dry, and then draw it with a pencil, and then you can paint it if you want, if you feel more comfortable doing that. So, but I'm going to use mine just with my brush here. So we're just going to make a little star outline first. So I'm going to do my outline here. Okay, so I have my star outline, and again, you can pencil it if you want to. And then we just fill that with orange. And orange is usually a pretty light color, so if you want to do a few layers to get a really nice and bright color orange, you can do that too. Completely up to you. You can always dry it in between the layers too, and that'll help cover as well. There we go, so that's my star. And now if you see on here, I put some more of those brown dots for kind of the suction-y part of the star. So it's the same thing, use the back end of the brush with the brown, and just add some of those. It's kind of the texture of the starfish, and they have those little suction cups. So it's just like that. And you can have a bunch of these. Maybe there's a lot of starfish on your beach. There we go. So then you can finish up your starfish. You can do a couple if you want to. But that is the last step of this painting. But if you want to, you could even go and gather some small shells or things like that, and you can even glue them onto your painting if you wanted kind of a 3D effect too. It's your painting, so you can do whatever you want with it. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to let us know. You can even contact us at Glaze Paint if you would like. But just make sure you put all the finishing touches on your painting and take your time. Have it look exactly how you want it to look. And also don't forget that we're going to be back here in July, so we will be doing a sloth painting. I don't have it with me, but I'm sure they'll be advertising it soon. So make sure to get your kit as soon as possible before they run out. So again, we'll be back in July, but thanks for joining us today. Again, I'm Katie at Glaze Paint.
And right now we don't have any